Hi, this is Steve Bragg, and this is a review of the diving that's available in the Saba and St. Kitts area in the Eastern Caribbean. We're diving on the Caribbean Explorer 2, and this is a view from the dive deck showing you some of the diving facilities. The boat's 100 feet long, accommodates 18 divers. There's a dive table there in the middle, and there's also nitrox available for the divers. On this particular trip, we had 15 people in the water, plus there was a staff on the boat of 7. Here's what the boat looks like from the outside. It's a 3-decker, and the top deck is dining facilities and an open sun deck. So the boat starts in St. Martin, takes you overnight to Saba, and the diving starts there. This is Saba, which is a big chunk of rock sticking up in the middle of nowhere. There aren't any beaches to speak of, and instead you tend to dive just off the coast looking up at cliffs. Now, just to one side of Saba is one of the key dive attractions, which is Diamond Rock, and this video shows it from the water, and perhaps from under the water. And under the water, people tend to be pretty happy, as you can see there, because the diving really is pretty good, though there are some currents, and also there are some people who are so happy they like to blow smoke rings underwater. Well, all right, maybe not smoke rings, maybe those are air rings, but whatever you want to call them, they're pretty cool. That's our dive master, Brett. So in terms of what's underwater, we have lionfish, which were inadvertently introduced from the Pacific a couple of years ago, and now they're everywhere. Since they have no known actual predators, we have to take their place, and so there are a variety of ways for killing off lionfish. Otherwise, they'll kill off all the local wildlife. One of the ways is to catch them young. Here's a baby lionfish, and the way you kill them off is by flicking them to death, which isn't really too much of a happy experience for the lionfish, but it does work. That's the boat captain there doing the deadly work. Also, in terms of deadly items, we have fireworms. As the name implies, you really don't want to pick them up or your hand will be on fire. That's an 8 or 9 inch one right there. You would not want to find that in your bunk. Also, there are quite a few rays in the area, generally pretty small ones, a couple of feet wide. This one looks pretty majestic, just sailing along there. You might see some eels in the background in this big sandy stretch. And here is another ray taken from above, again just gliding along. They really are one of these smoother customers out there. That's quite a small one, perhaps a foot and a half wide. Also, getting back to Diamond Rock, here was a fairly small shark that we disturbed that was trying to sleep down the bottom around 85 feet or so. And it had to come out and see what all the flares were about from our strobes, and didn't like that, turned around and almost bumped into Melissa, who's taking the video here, and then he took off. We also have quite a few burrfish in the area, and the really small baby burrfish are really cute. The bigger ones are obviously as prickly as you can see there. Hopefully they're fairly nice. Maybe their personalities don't match. Now, in terms of lobsters, this is quite an easy thing to find in the area. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 lobsters in a stretch of maybe 6 feet. Or, for somewhat more gregarious lobsters, you'll have a few of them running around out in the open. Now, that's not something they normally do. But the dive master was offering some free fish, so this one came over for a quick sniff and thought better of it and backed up a bit and then said, wait, that could work. And then, no, he decided to back up and got a bit defensive on us and retreated under a nearby coral reef, and then he vanished on us, which is what most of them actually do. But that was quite unusual to see one out in the open like that. Now, we also have some scorpion fish in the area. They like to mimic rocks, and they swim about as well as rocks. So in this case, watch how far he gets to go with one nice little hop. Yep, that's it. A couple of inches. They're really not one of these smoother characters out there. Generally, they mimic rocks so well you really can't even see them. In terms of other rather ugly-looking creatures, here's a flounder. We got a little too close, so he zipped off on us. A lot of flounders in the area. And the exact reverse, instead of fat, we have very narrow. Here's a trumpetfish. They like to hide among the soft corals, sometimes hanging vertically. And he's just cruising off and doesn't mind us too much there. Also, we have filefish. These yellow guys tend to take off right away as soon as they see a diver approaching, though in this case we ended up actually having two of them show up, and they both took off, and that was the end of that. We also have jawfish. There's two in the upper part of the screen here. They have their own little holes, and if you get too close, watch this, boom, they're gone. And that's about as close as you ever get. Now, we also have trunkfish. These little guys have a defense mechanism, which is basically run away as fast as they can, which isn't very fast. As you can see, their fins aren't very large, and they really are kind of humorous as they take off on you. You might have noticed that little guy was getting buffeted around, and that's because there's quite a bit of surge in the area. And as you can see from these soft corals, you're getting pushed back and forth a lot, which also makes the camera work pretty difficult, as you can see from the way this image is jerking back and forth. Now let's move up to schools of fish instead of individual ones. These guys clearly are on caffeine, and they really don't know which way to go. Left, left, or maybe just bail out and exit stage right, like right there. Another good place to find schools of fish is on top of wrecks. Here's a wreck over in the St. Kitts area, and there aren't very many wrecks in this area. Most of them have been actually sponsored by scuba shops. They clean them up, take all the cables off, and then sink them intentionally in shallow water so that the dive groups can go out and poke around and see this kind of fish volume. And by the way, no, that's not a washing machine sitting on the deck. At any rate, this is where you're likely to find quite a few dive boats. These boats have not been sunken all that long, and yet there's really quite a bit of coral growth on them. So as you can see here looking in, there's a lot of incrustation and also a lot of rot. The metal boats are gone fairly quickly. Give them a couple of decades and they'll collapse out there. And you can see right there, very thick growth, and also one more view of a different part of the same ship. Extremely thick growth all around the hull, going right around the back side, and also you'll start seeing again a large cluster of fish hanging up above. This is a great place for photographers and videographers. One other feature on these wrecks is if you look up near the top there, it looks like a mirror stuck to the ceiling. That's actually a large bubble of air, and you can see some fin movement from the videographer reflected up in the ceiling. And we finish with a night dive. When you come up off a night dive, you're a little cold and chilly, so you have a choice of either cocoa or some nice hard liquor. In this case, it was probably hard liquor because everyone's smiling, and yes, since it was a night dive, it's pitch dark out, and so you can see off in the distance the lights of St. Kitts. And hope you enjoyed our overview of the diving in Saba and St. Kitts. Thank you.